Right now, somewhere in the world, someone is crying at a movie, someone else is blushing after a compliment, and someone is getting goosebumps from a song. None of them are in danger. None of them are cold. Their bodies are just doing something ancient, something automatic, something no other animal on Earth does in quite the same way. Meet Thok. Thok is not fancy. Thok is a caveman who mostly worries about fire, food, and not getting eaten. But even Thok cries when he loses someone. Even Thok's skin prickles when a shadow moves wrong in the dark. Even Thok's face goes hot when the whole tribe stares at him after he trips over a rock. These three reactions feel small, almost embarrassing, but they are some of the strangest things the human body does, and scientists have spent over a century trying to explain them. Let's start with crying, because it's the weirdest one. Plenty of animals produce tears elephants, dogs, even crocodiles. But those are lubricating tears, the kind that wash dust and irritants out of the eye. What almost no other species does is cry from emotion, tears triggered by grief, joy, or heartbreak, with nothing physically wrong with the eye at all. In 1985, biochemist William Frey at the University of Minnesota ran an experiment that sounds almost too simple. He collected emotional tears from volunteers watching sad films and compared them to tears triggered by chopping onions. The two liquids were chemically different. Emotional tears carried extra proteins and stress hormones, including one called prolactin. Frey's theory was bold. Crying might be a release valve, a way for the body to physically flush out chemical waste built up during emotional stress. Imagine you're Thok, and your hunting partner doesn't come back from the cliffs. You don't have words for grief the way we do now. All you have is your body, and your body decides on its own, without asking you, to leak salt water down your face in front of the entire tribe. That's the part that fascinates researchers most. Crying is not private. It's loud. It's visible. It's impossible to hide well. Psychologist Ad Vingerhoats, who has studied crying for decades, argues that this visibility is the entire point. A cry is a signal nobody can fake convincingly for long, which is exactly why it works. It tells everyone around you instantly that you need help, without you having to say a single word. In 2013, photographer Rosalind Fisher took this even further. She put dried tears under a microscope for a project called The Topography of Tears, and photographed them. Tears of grief looked like frozen rivers. Tears of laughter looked like scattered crystals. Onion tears looked almost blank, flat, empty. Same liquid, wildly different landscapes, depending only on what was happening inside the person crying. There's another layer to this that Thok would recognize instantly. Crying in front of others tends to spread. One person breaks down at a funeral, and within minutes, half the room is crying too, even people who barely knew the person who died. Researchers who study group behavior think this mirroring works like a bonding mechanism, almost the same way contagious yawning spreads through a room. Your body is quietly synchronizing with the people around you, whether you decide to or not. For Thok's tribe, a shared cry after a loss wasn't weakness. It was glue. It told everyone present that they were grieving together, not alone. Now picture Thok again, except this time he's not sad. He just tripped in front of everyone while carrying water back to camp. And his face goes red. Charles Darwin was obsessed with this one. In his 1872 book, The Expression of the Emotions in Man and Animals, he called blushing the most peculiar and the most human of all expressions. Not fear, not anger, blushing. Because unlike almost every other facial expression, you cannot choose to do it, and you cannot choose to stop it once it starts. Here's what's actually happening. The moment you feel embarrassed or exposed, your brain floods your bloodstream with adrenaline. That adrenaline widens the blood vessels just under the skin of your face, neck, and ears, which are thinner and closer to the surface there than almost anywhere else on your body. Blood rushes in, and within seconds, everyone can see it. You cannot think your way out of it. Trying to hide a blush usually makes it worse because now you're also embarrassed about blushing. No monkey does this, no dog does this. As far as researchers can tell, blushing requires something very specific. An animal that understands it is being watched and cares what the watchers think. That kind of self-consciousness appears to be almost entirely human. Darwin himself pointed out the strange cruelty of it. The very awareness that makes you a social creature is the same thing that betrays you the moment you feel small in front of the group. Some modern researchers now think blushing might actually work in your favor. It's what's called an honest signal. If you blush after making a mistake, people around you tend to trust you more, not less, because a blush is nearly impossible to fake. Thok can't pretend to feel sorry. His own face does the confessing for him. Darwin noticed something else that still puzzles people today. Even individuals who have been blind since birth blush exactly the same way sighted people do, in the exact same social situations. They have never once seen a face turn red, yet their own skin does it anyway. That single observation told Darwin that blushing isn't really about being looked at. It's about the feeling of being known, of existing inside someone else's judgment, whether you can see them judging you or not. And then there's the strangest one of all: goosebumps. You feel cold, or you hear a song that hits just right, or a memory catches you off guard, and suddenly every hair on your arms stands straight up. Doctors call it piloerection. Tiny muscles at the base of each hair follicle, called erector pili, contract all at once, and for a few seconds your skin looks like it belongs to someone else. For almost every mammal alive, this reaction still does something useful. A cold cat puffs up its fur to trap a thicker layer of warm air against its skin. A frightened porcupine raises its quills to look twice its actual size to a predator. A startled cat arching its back is running the exact same program Thok's body is running right now when he hears a growl in the dark, hair up, body braced, looking bigger and warmer than it actually is. The problem is, humans lost most of our body hair a very long time ago. We kept the muscles, we kept the wiring. We just don't have the fur left for any of it to actually work. When your arm hair stands up during a thunderstorm, you're not getting warmer, and you're not looking bigger to anything. You're watching a leftover survival reflex fire uselessly into empty air, a message sent to fur that packed up and left thousands of years ago. But here's the part that genuinely puzzles scientists. Goosebumps don't only fire from cold or fear anymore. They fire from music, from a perfect line in a movie, from a memory of someone you miss. A 1980 study on what researchers call skin orgasms found that around 90% of people get chills specifically from music, often at the exact same moment in a song every single time they hear it. Nobody fully agrees on why an ancient hair-raising reflex would get hijacked by a chord change or a plot twist, but the leading theory is that goosebumps piggyback on the same brain circuits used for deep emotional reward, the same ones triggered by things that once meant survival, now firing for things that just mean meaning. Neuroscientists even gave this specific music chill feeling a name: frisson. In 2011, researcher Robert Zatorre at McGill University scanned the brains of people while they listened to their favorite songs right at the exact moment the chills hit. He found a rush of dopamine in the same reward circuitry that lights up for food, for winning, for anything your ancient brain considers a jackpot. Somehow, a rising melody had learned to trick the same machinery that once rewarded Thok for finding a beehive full of honey. So think about Thok one more time. Cold night, dead friend, embarrassing fall. 3 separate moments. 3 completely involuntary reactions. None of them useful in any practical sense anymore, and all 3 still very much alive in you. Right now, today. Crying that floods your face with a signal you can't fake. Blushing that confesses your feelings before your mouth even opens. Goosebumps that brace a body for a threat that isn't there, triggered instead by a song. None of it makes sense as pure machinery. All of it makes sense as connection. Proof that somewhere underneath language, underneath tools, underneath everything we built to look civilized, we're still running the exact same emotional software Thok was running around a fire thousands of years ago. We just don't have the fur left to show it properly anymore.